I love to go hiking, and I have hiked hundreds of miles in the past 3 years. In this video, I'm going to share the tips I've learned for hiking trails that you can use for keeping yourself from getting lost at any state park, national park, or really any like established trail system. Here is a photo I took at somebody's private trail and here about an hour southwest of Dallas. It's a beautiful ranch, and where you actually get to camp next to this waterfall. And I'm putting it here because it's near Cleburne State Park, which is my favorite state park to hike at here in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. But one challenge is you have when you go out there, if you don't have a map, you don't follow tips I'm sharing about in this video, it is easy to get yourself disoriented and possibly even lost. Now that park is so small, I don't think you'd ever get so lost you'd need to call for search and rescue. But it's that's what happens to people when they go out on trail. I mean, everybody seems to be so scared about wildlife and bears and wolves and bobcats and stuff. And well, we need to take that seriously. You're more likely to run in trouble because you got yourself disoriented and need to call search and rescue, or maybe you got yourself hurt or something. And that's the idea about here is that if you follow these tips, you can avoid getting in that kind of situation. Now, ideally, we're going to be on a trail that's almost like following these dinosaur footprints. And these are real dinosaur footprints from Dinosaur Valley State Park here in the DFW Metroplex. Ironically, it's about 30 minutes from Cleburne State Park, and that I just talked about. But often what happens is we're on trails, and there's multiple different twists and turns, and even trails that intersect, and it's easy to get yourself disoriented. And like I said, most time I'm in state parks, which are not very big, even by Texas standards. But comparison, this is from when I went backpacking to Big Bend National Park, and that is 800,000 square miles. Like I remember being at basically a group spot, and somebody pulled up the map, and they were like, "We're from Ohio. Ohio is like 1 million square miles, and this state park or this national park is almost as big as my entire state, and it's a small fraction of the size of Texas." But the thing about Big Bend is, yeah, it's out there. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's so dark. It's considered the darkest sky park in the entire National Park Service. So you can imagine if you are not prepared, you don't have your maps, you don't have your apps, you don't have a compass, it is easy to get yourself lost and you can be in trouble. Now, even if you're with a guide who has the maps and a GPS, you can still make a mistake and find yourself going in the wrong direction. This is a photo from my backpacking trip to Central Florida in January of 2022, where we were out hiking. It was the last day. I had timed it to where, based on my pace and the distance we had to travel, I was able to put my AirPods in. Well, I should say AirPod. I always only put one in when I'm on trail, so that way I can hear noises. But I was listening to Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and I had timed it. When we got to Paradise City, should be at the trailhead. We were just hiking with our packs on, making good speed. And I remember Paradise City starting, and I mentioned to our guide that, hey, where's the trailhead? And that's when we realized we had missed a turn because we were looking for a sign where to turn, and the sign had been burned down in the last prescribed burn in the national forest. So we went about a mile and a half in the wrong direction. So even if you think you're prepared and you're with a guide, it can still be possible to miss the turn. All right, so what can you do to make sure you stay on trail, stay on track when you go hiking in a national or state park? Well, first things first, get the map of the park. This here is a screenshot of the one of the hiking trails at Cleburne State Park. And the reason why I'm bringing Cleburne State Park is the inspiration from this video came from a Facebook group where someone talked about mentioned they had gotten lost at that state park. And so So I thought, okay, I'll show the example of the map. So here's the map, and I drew a red arrow to point to one of the trails. And so start with the map. You can be a digital map, or you can get a paper map at the at the guard station. And so this way you get an idea of orienting yourself where you are in the park, even if you don't decide to use an app or your GPS device. Now, I also tell everybody you should go ahead and get an app like AllTrails or OnX or Gia, something that will tell you where you're at, and ideally already has the maps of the trails that you're going to be hiking on. Now, and get the version that will download the maps for you, even if you lose cell phone service, because your smartphone has a GPS chip in it, and GPS works even if the cell phone service doesn't work. Now, yes, you have to have your battery, but that's, you can carry a battery pack with you, so I don't think that's a bigger problem. And so, and look, even worst case, Google Maps, you can download the maps of the area where you're at, and at least you can have a general idea of where you're at. It may not be able to tell you what trail you're on, but it should at least have the trail on the Google map, and that will allow you to, for example, if you got yourself lost, to get your, maybe for example, you went off trail, you need to get back on trail, or you need to find a road. Google Maps is good for that. Now, finally, I know some of you may be thinking, hey, Mark, you should learn map and compass. I don't disagree with that in general, but the thing about map and compass is that one, there's a skill you have to learn. Two, most paper maps are not up to date because we've had GPS for so long and now we have smartphones. The map companies just aren't, as I understand it, just aren't keeping up to date. So just because you can use a map and compass doesn't mean that is actually better than a smartphone. I'd always, now myself, I always say carry a compass because, for example, if you're in the middle of a forest like this photo here, this is just a stock photo, so I don't even know where this forest is at. But if you're in this forest like this and you found yourself lost and you needed to get yourself out of the forest, and you knew like the roads were like 135 degrees, then you need to figure out where that is and just keep walking that direction to get help. Then that's where a compass really comes in handy. Now, if you want to learn how to do that, watch this video I've made for you right here.